I referred earlier to the researchers being the fuel for CCSIP, but as we all know, there's another fuel that fuels the researchers, and it's funding. Stephen Beckwith and Stuart Wilson are now going to spend just a few minutes describing for us the launch of the call for proposals. Stephen Beckwith is the Vice President for Research and Graduate Studies for the UC system as a whole, and I'll turn to Stephen first.
Thank you. Well, we've had a great day of very lofty ideas, and I think these summaries indicate both the importance of the topics being talked about and the fervor with which some of the people are really discussing these. But, of course, none of these will really become real unless some funding is put in. And actually, this funding is not quite funding to get one through the valley of death. It's to get one, I think, up to the edge of the valley of death. After that, we'll see how it goes. But we certainly are committed to doing that. Now, the good news is that there will be real money for this program. Both the University of California and Canada are pledging $1 million each, so $2 million in total. We would envision doing this over a couple of years. So the first call, we're aiming at giving out roughly $1 million of money. And I think you realize that in these times, although in good times that may not seem like a lot, right now it seems every $1 million really does count a lot. So I think that's good news. We really have committed to this program. There will be real money. We will give it to, hopefully, people in this room. Now, the call for proposals we will put out by mid-November. We expect the proposals will be due sometime this winter. We've got actually notional dates, but we still have to arrange a few of the details, so I won't specify the dates today. And then we'll review and announce by early spring. So the idea will be to get out money fairly soon. And the target will be for two notional types of proposals. One type of proposal we'll refer to as a strategy proposal. This is to give you money to take a concept and develop it into an idea, more or less. So that kind of proposal we envision to be around $50K. And that $50K will provide for collaboration building, workshops, meetings, the things that it will take you to get to a step where you're ready to make the next jump, which is a real business proposal. And the business proposals will be of order $100K. And the $100K will then fund the team to put together a proposal of the sort that produced this big stem cell collaboration. So that's the notional idea. Simple counting suggests that we might do, say, 6 strategy proposals and 6 business proposals in the first year and see how it goes then after the end of the second year, which is rather a substantial amount. If you think of the 5 areas we've talked about right now, that means you'd have at least on average 2 of these proposals per area, and I think that would be pretty healthy. Of course, we reserve the right to fund more if we get really outstanding ideas, but my experience is that with oversubscription that we'll probably do well with what we've got. And so that's what you should think. Now, there are different groups that are at different stages. So some groups, for example, I had the privilege of sitting in a room where one of the participants noted that there was more creativity in that room than there was in the rest of the building combined, and I was very pleased that I had chosen to sit in that room at the time. And of course, we'll be testing the ideas that came out of that. But it was my thinking and listening to the discussion that they weren't actually at the stage of building a business proposal. They were still at the stage of trying to take a concept and get some funding to turn it into a real idea. And so in that area, I think it's very clear that they're in the kind of $50K range. On the other hand, some of the other things we heard about, in particular maybe from green IT or maybe from carbon capture and sequestration, the discussions were actually much more advanced. And I think in the case of the green IT, they're in the process of, they're just about ready to develop, at least some of the groups, to a real business proposal. So even in the first year, we could imagine giving out 1 or 2 of these 200K proposals to develop a real business proposal. So I think that's good news. That says that people are rather advanced. Now, how will this RFP look? Well, it will look like most other RFPs, of course. What we'd like to do is emphasize first and foremost quality of the proposal, and especially the potential for genuine change in some area. This is common, but of course in this stage we're really looking for things. We're looking at very far ahead. We're not looking for incremental change. We're looking for major change. And of course, to just repeat what others have said, to emphasize the complementary strengths that both the University of California and Canada bring to this area. We will refine the call for proposals. We have a draft call for proposals, but it really needs quite a bit of refinement based on what we've heard here from the panel groups. And we heard a number of panel groups who made specific recommendations on what they'd like to see in the call for proposal and in the selecting criteria, so that we actually fund the things that have come out of those discussions. And so we will put that in. Of course, there isn't really a recipe book, as it's been emphasized, for getting the right ideas. And furthermore, I personally feel it would be a little restrictive if we only confined ourselves to accepting proposals in these subject areas. So while we will certainly emphasize those and hope that that's what arises, we will accept proposals from any area. If you have a really great idea that you manage to have after you walk out of this building, it's not quite in one of these areas, but you realize being here in Canada, say if you're in California, that there's great synergism potential, then I would encourage you to follow it up. We don't mean to be restrictive. I can say from the UC side, it's always a benefit to us if proposals emphasize ways in which they will not just build the workforce, but really train the next generation. We're in the business of educating students as well as doing research, and so we hope very much that our faculty members find ways to build students in. I think that would also be true of the universities in Canada, and I would hope that businesses would find this very attractive too, because all the reports I read indicate that businesses are having a hard time in many areas getting really highly qualified people to fill the job. So that will be a great benefit if you can propose in that way. I think with that I will wrap up. We will take questions. Stuart may want to say a few words, and then we'll take questions on the request for proposals, but our goal is to have it out by mid-November and to have money on the street, or at least in your hands, some of your hands, by spring.
I've got nothing to add.
It's a remarkable restraint, Stuart. Good for you. Okay, in the interest of time, maybe we'll allow one or two questions, but I know that we are at a point with in terms of the funding where people might have very specific questions, and so I think it's appropriate to give an opportunity for a few. I see one right here.
Very simple question. How will you broadcast your call for proposal?
Question is, how will you broadcast the RFP?
That's a good question. I don't know how it will be done in Canada, but I can tell you how we will be able to do it within the UC system. Once we get it final and we're ready to release, we will first of all post it on a web page, then actually not simultaneously. Before we post it, I will send it to each of the vice chancellors for research on the 10 campuses and to the national labs. We have usually it's the deputy directors that handle this. We will get that to them beforehand, and then once the proposal goes up on our UC Office of the President web page, I will ask the people on the campuses to broadcast that to the individual faculty members, so they will be covered. Now, of course, some of them will see this as spam, but for the most part, this is not quite the same offer as the Nigerian spam offers you, because there is real money and it is measured in millions of dollars.
Well, the Nigerian spam I think only has a few million. I think.
Yeah, I guess that's true. So they'll have to up their game a little bit if they want.